Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner, Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, the Cubs continue to play great baseball, frankly. Everyone is contributing. The offense continues to look great. The one issue right now, the main thing we're going to talk about right now is Shota Imanaga heads to the IL. I was there on Sunday when the injury occurred. It seemed pretty obvious what was happening. It was a hamstring issue that was confirmed soon after. Just running to first, covering first on a potential 3-6-1 double play. It looked it was immediate. You could see as he slowed up, and you could see like he just motioned to the dugout like this was an obvious thing, not something I think he's felt before. I think the one thing we got from post game on Sunday was him saying like what happened in Pittsburgh didn't seem similar at all to this. It's hard to know, right? Like if you're cramping, that can lead to weaknesses in the body that cause that, right? But according to counsel, according to Imanaga, like everything was great leading up into that start. They had no signs suggesting that he needed more time or he should take a break here. So I'm not sure if the Cubs screwed anything up there. I don't think it would be fair to suggest that they did, but he's on the shelf, and that's the bottom line. He's headed to the IL. What did you hear on Monday when you were out at the ballpark?
I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but the Cubs went through PFPs, pitcher fielding practice, before Monday's game, doing those kind of covering the first moves. Shota was unavailable to speak to the media. He was scheduled to meet with Dr. Stephen Grislow closer towards first pitch on Monday night. And, the Cubs are saying this is a mild strain. Craig Counsell said, they're still looking at 2+ weeks, which is kind of what, when it's a 15-day injured list. I think one point Jed Hoyer stressed was we don't want to just get him back. We want to get him back fully healthy and capable of doing all the things that he normally does as one of the game's best pitchers. We know how these timelines go, right? Like they're very much subject to change, and it kind of goes through these cycles of fans and media freak out. The Cubs say, this is actually like good news considering, what the worst case could have been. And then we don't see him for a while and the game just keeps moving on. So I would imagine, we'll obviously get into how they go on from here. Cade Horton is certainly one name, but I'm curious to kind of ask, as when we go back to Wrigley, like, are these things related? Like all of a sudden to have like 2 leg issues after being extremely healthy during his rookie season in Chicago. And I guess the other component here too is you're already down Justin Steele, right? So, he's gone for the rest of the year. Javier Assad is on the injured list as well, which is basically, 60% of a projected opening day rotation is just sidelined, and Shota might be the first one to come back, and we have no idea when he's going to be fully ready either.
Yeah, it's way too early. Like the good news, the bad news, we'll see as this progresses. Like there can be setbacks. They can say, "Oh, it's not responding like we hoped," right? Like we hear these things all the time. We'll have a better idea when he starts throwing again. I think Justin Steele's injury last year with his hamstring is a good kind of like it's something we can look at and say like, okay, that's probably a good scenario, right? He missed a month and came back and was pretty quickly effective again. That's what you have to hope with Shota Imanaga. I think there's anything sooner than a month, I think would be aggressively optimistic. I guess it's possible. But it would be pretty optimistic there. But a month seems kind of realistic, and you just have to kind of hope that there's no setbacks, that this isn't a recurring issue, that that it quickly dissipates and he's out there throwing and feeling nothing, and then goes through the progression needed. You're right. The depth is taking a hit. Like, this was something that, I mean, I think it's important to like, it's an important reminder of why you have to add guys like Colin Ray and why guys like Chris Flexen are important. Like, you don't want to have to dip into all these this depth, but the reality is it's a long season and you may have to. And now Flexen seems important. Now Colin Ray has been hugely important for this team. Jordan Wicks is struggling. He's struggling at AAA. Like, you can't predict all these things. At the end, remember the end of 2023, how good Jordan Wicks looked?
Yeah.
He had that disaster start to end the season, but there was like a stretch, like all his starts before that were really good.
He had 4 or 5 really competitive starts in a playoff chase. It was very impressive.
Yeah. And then last year was just a bad season for him. Injuries and ineffectiveness, and now he's struggling. He looks in great shape last time we saw him, right? He looked like he had kind of like he'd really taken the offseason seriously, like was doing everything needed. I talked to some people that suggest the pitch shapes and everything looks good. He's not effective right now, and that's just baseball, like you can't assume that these guys are going to be key parts of the rotation, which is why you need depth, which is why they sign guys like Colin Ray and Chris Flexen. So when we go through this every year, where fans are like, why are they adding this guy? Why do you need John Birdie? Why do you need Colin Ray? This is why. Like, Birdie's been important, and so's Colin Ray. I think it's obviously, Patrick, the most interesting aspect that we can talk about is Cade Horton, right? Is he a real option to fill Imanaga's spot? What did you hear when you were in Wrigley?
So there were the words that Cubs officials said, and then there was kind of like the tone in which they said it. And both Jed Hoyer and Craig Counsell said Horton is an option. It's hard to tell sometimes what is just Craig Counsell's sort of normal default setting and what is him being annoyed at the Horton questions, or just sort of being conscious of, when you're talking about someone who's not on the team, it means that someone who's currently on the team could be out the door, right? I think he's sort of sensitive to that. And I will say too, circling back to something I said earlier, like, it is challenging to talk about these injuries, right? Like, a lot of it is just being patient and kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. And that's part of it here with Horton. Like, they don't know exactly how long Imanaga will be out, but you kind of want to know roughly how many starts you're going to have to cover. And you could, on Saturday in New York, do Chris Flexen and sort of a bullpen game. You have a day off scheduled for Thursday. There are actually a few Thursdays that are off days on the upcoming schedule. There are ways to sort of maneuver. We saw how good Counsell was in Milwaukee with some of those bullpen style games, but we also know that Counsell always tries to build in extra rest for all of his starters. And as Jed said yesterday, like, it's Cinco de Mayo. We got a long way to go. Like, pushing your pitchers that hard this early in the season, there's going to be a cost to that down the line. And everything Counsell focuses on is kind of on preservation and making sure the team hits its stride come September. And, at this point, the Cubs have to be planning as if they're going to be playing deep into October. So it's hard to tell, like, how much of this is an internal debate. Like, is Cade Horton ready? Is he best served, working, like, really sharpening his pitches on at a lower level, knowing full well that he has not had a huge volume of innings, whether it was in college at Oklahoma or in the minors, all of that due to injuries. They've talked a lot about having this foundation. And so what I don't know is how much is it sort of just a natural back and forth, how much of it is like kind of asking questions or being a devil's advocate. I think we both agree he's coming up soon. We just don't know if it's going to be this Saturday, or maybe you kind of find him that softer landing spot, not at Citi Field on a Fox national TV game against Juan Soto and the Mets.
Right. There's some things I want to touch on right there. Let's take a quick break, though.
If you want to be bougie and have your own personal shopper, Hungry Root is actually the spot, and you can do it at an affordable price.
Yeah, without a doubt. And especially with my busy schedule with kids on the run all the time, baseball, gymnastics, I need a source that's going to get me going and my kids as well. So I'll pop in an easy chicken parm or grilled chicken, put it in a nice container, get it to go, and the kids are excited, and they're full, and they're nutritional, and it's ready to rock for their games.
There will be snacks that you have never heard of that you will immediately fall in love with. They will pick them out for you if you want. Obviously, you can go on there. You pick all of your preferences. Hungry Root gets the job done. Okay, FT fam, we love Hungry Root. Take advantage of this exclusive offer for a limited time. 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life at hungryroot.com/FT. That's code FT. hungryroot.com/FT. Code FT for 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. The code is simple. It's 2 letters, FT.
Patrick, Cade Horton, the debate, I think you touched on some things that I think are worth talking about. Building up innings, right? He's thrown back-to-back 6-inning outings. He'd never thrown 6 innings in a game, in a professional game, until those back-to-back outings. He has, I want to say, under 100 or under 200 professional innings under his belt. Yeah, I could be wrong on that. You know what? I'm going to double check that right now. But my point is, ultimately, what we're talking about when it comes to how they look at pitchers and developing them and whether they're ready for the big leagues. This is a very different calculus that they use than they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I've been touching on this in recent podcasts about, first of all, the Cubs philosophy is shifting. How they look at their prospects, how pitching prospects, they're being more aggressive. Like Cade Horton getting to 6 innings is them being a little bit more aggressive, pushing him, right? Nazir Muley, Jackson Wiggins. These are 2 of their younger, super talented pitchers. They're pushing them with their pitch count and their innings. They don't measure things just by pitch count and innings anymore. Like that's kind of rudimentary, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
They have all these wearables that we've talked about that spit out data and tell you whether a guy is tiring, whether a guy is feeling good. You can see it. Oh, his arm slot is dropping, or he's compensating in this way. His the spin is changing on his pitches. His workouts aren't as intense, or he's tiring quickly in workouts. Like even off the field stuff is being measured, and it tells them something about how the player is feeling. So going off his innings is not going to be the main thing they do. I think what you have to look at is it's as simple as, is he ready to get major league hitters out?
Yes.
Right. I think that may be the bottom line. I think there are things I understand, the having the kind of having your feet under you and making sure that obviously the mental stuff, that type of stuff is important too, right? So when you talk about giving them a soft landing, all those things, I think that's important. I think that matters, and you don't want to, if you can avoid it, you don't want to throw them in New York on the road, against a really good lineup. Like that's a lot to handle on a national broadcast, like you pointed out. So that may, if you can avoid that, why force it? Maybe see what Chris Flexen can do, get 4 or 5 innings out of Chris Flexen and go from there. But just saying you can't do it because he has, I just looked, it's under 200 innings because he has that many innings. I don't think that's how the philosophy is anymore. It's just not what they say. Like, can he get outs? And maybe he has limited innings in his professional career, so you want to maximize it. If he's ready, go out and get major league hitters out now. You can do that. So why are we wasting your pitches in the minors, right? I think that's what some of the debate that goes on, right? I think what you were saying there is absolutely accurate, and I think maybe you're right that Counsell just likes to present this other point of view. He likes to maybe he wants Cade Horton up. Maybe he thinks he's ready and can get guys out, but he also he's like, hey, are we thinking about this? What about this aspect? Have we considered this? Like, are we rushing him if we do this? Is this part ready? I think that very well could be the case, but I don't know. I'm not inside Counsell's head.
Well, I mean, Jed Hoyer as well acknowledged the sort of final box that Horton has to check developmentally is just constantly throwing competitive pitches. Like, you're going to miss sometimes. You're not going to be perfect, but like, you just have to be in and around the zone consistently. And that Horton is so gifted, and AAA hitters are, not at a level where, or basically at a level where he can get away with more. And that being in a 1-2 count or being in a 2-2 count is a huge difference if you look at it, kind of analytically over the course of a long season. And that Horton, because he's missed these huge chunks of time, maybe isn't quite as sharp as you'd like. But at the same time, like, if he is this talented and if he is this locked in at this point, I don't think you really have a lot to lose by just seeing what you have, because the upside is so great.
Yeah, I think we should see him soon. It doesn't make sense to me to not, if he's healthy. He's improving too, right? He's back to his 2023 self as far as stuff. He's the walk rate is dropping each time he goes out. The innings are jumping. He's being more efficient. Mm-hmm. It's almost to the point where I wouldn't say it's there yet, but it's almost to the point where it's like, this is pointless. What does he have to learn at AAA? It's not quite there yet, but it's close. And now there's a need. I think the conversations I was having before this were a lot of like, he's, you could make the argument that he's ready. There are people in the organization that believe he's ready. But where does he fit in the rotation right now? Like, you can't take Ben Brown out. This was before Ben Brown's Friday start. The reason you can't take Ben Brown out is as simple as this: their depth is hurting, right? Mm-hmm. Their pitching depth is hurting. If you take Ben Brown out, are you sending him to AAA? Like, what does he have to prove there? What's he learning from going to AAA? And if you're not sending him to AAA, that means you're moving him to the bullpen. Now you're losing length, right? He's going to get shortened up, and he's not going to be ready to make a spot start if there's an injury, like there just was. So, I mean, obviously that's not a consideration now. You need Ben Brown, but I'm just saying, they were so short already. Like, you couldn't risk taking Ben Brown out of the rotation because you can't make him a reliever right now because you need that length. You need someone stretched out in the minors that you can call upon, and so Horton couldn't have taken that spot. Now there's an obvious spot. Now you don't even need to have this debate. Like, where does he fit? It's like, here's the spot. And if he comes up and grabs a hold of it, imagine how good of a debate or how good of a problem, right? Was that Madden's thing? Like, these are good problems, these things kind of figure themselves out.
Yeah. Like,
but they're also good
three shortstops. Yeah. Like, three shortstops
yeah.
fit, and it sorted itself out.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think, Patrick, like, beyond coming up for the Mets series, you talk to people about this, I believe, like, this is a good environment to come up in.
No doubt. I mean, we are recording on a Tuesday morning, so the Cubs have game Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon, Friday night before this kind of Shota Horton spot comes available. We don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, there could be another injury tonight, tomorrow. Someone shows up, presenting not as well. Stuff always happens, and so whether it's Saturday or a couple of days later, like Horton's going to be up this year as long as he's healthy. And I think this environment, I was talking with Jameson Tyone about this, of, you have two very well regarded catchers who care about pitchers and have, a lot of attention to detail, and are also producing at an unbelievable rate offensively. You have a lineup that's just rolling right now, from Ian Happ at the top, and, Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow Armstrong just becoming, one of the most talked about players in baseball. You have Gold Glove defenders all over the field. You have a team that's just performing well, so it's not like you have to be the savior. Craig Counsell is someone who I remember Ben Brown saying before Counsell was even hired in Chicago, Brown was sort of looking at how Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff were used, like kind of their pass to the big leagues and kind of the role Counsell played in that. Tyone referenced Tommy Hotovy, who's been around seemingly forever, who has a World Series ring for his work, as a coordinator on the run prevention side, but he's someone who has forged a lot of great relationships with, Japanese pitchers, to Justin Steele's developments, to kind of reworking the bullpen on the fly. Like, you take all that together, and I think it gets pretty easy to talk yourself into Cade Horton. Why not?
Yeah, you present it like that, and it seems kind of obvious, right? Like, this isn't like no reason to overthink some things. Sometimes I think ultimately I think like there's no doubt we're seeing him this year. Soon this year, assuming health and continued effectiveness. My gut is ultimately telling me it's going to be real soon. Like, it makes a lot of sense. I think there's very few arguments against. The argument against is he's not ready. He needs to build up innings. And I don't think that's a strong argument right now, because he looks ready, and those innings are just more valuable at the highest level, especially right now for this team. They're trying to win. They're in win now mode. You need the best players up. Cade Horton, it looks like he'd be one of the best 26 players on this team, one of the best starters with who's available right now. That's what it looks like. I think it's as simple as that, Patrick. I don't and I think they're eventually going to come to that conclusion. Like, I think the people that we've talked to, that the feeling that we got even before this injury was that it wasn't far off. So it just seems like this may have sped it up slightly, but not significantly. This was coming. We'll see when it is. I'm not sure if they're going to. Maybe they announce it like after Friday's start, right? Maybe it'll be one of those things where they like to wait, especially Counsell. It's not just Counsell. Like, Ross used to do this too.
Yeah.
You just wait. Let's see what happens, right? We don't need to make a decision. Let's not make the decision. Like, maybe they have the scenarios. If this and this happens, here's what we're doing. If this happens, this is what we're doing. That's probably how they have it planned out right now, or they're close to have it planned out. And then we'll know Friday evening is my guess. After the start, they'll say so-and-so is starting tomorrow.
I'd imagine how the rest of the Giants series plays out, could be some sort of a factor, just because you never know. But eventually they're going to come around to this. They almost have to. And if he's this good, if you think he could be like a big X factor for you in the second half, why not start this process a little earlier when you don't need him to be an ace?
Right.
And I think, circling back to what you had said about kind of how innings limits are kind of a rudimentary, misleading concept. Like, I go back to Garrett Crochet last year. Like, he pitched a lot without having kind of a traditional foundation. And I think as an industry, you're kind of seeing baseball people just kind of throw their hands up in the air and be like, nobody really knows anything. You
Yeah.
might as well just let it ride with your best dudes.
Yes, it's interesting you brought that up because crochet was the example that I brought up while talking to some people, and ultimately we all agreed like nobody really has the answers.
Yeah, yeah.
that like that's the main key. Like they just don't, like what you just said is so true. They don't. It's not like they're 100% sure that none of it. It's just like, why should we go off innings? Like that's like we have more information. I think this is probably better information, but we don't really know if that's the exact way to do it because it's still the hardest thing to figure out for them. The other thing that you just touched on before we go, I just want to like it kind of building him up, getting him ready. Like you want him to have some hiccups maybe, or know what it's like in the majors. So this is their schedule after the Mets. It's Miami, White Sox, Miami, Cincinnati, Colorado, Cincinnati, Washington, and then it gets hard again with Detroit and Philadelphia. But that's a bunch of series right there where it's not like overwhelming competition, terrifying offenses, nothing like that is there just yet. So you could get him a couple starts to be like, this is the majors, this is what it's like. And then the competition starts to get tougher and you see what you can do, right? But I think that makes sense as a landing spot for him. We'll see if the Cubs agree. We'll see. But I think like it seems like it's a good landing spot coming up. All right, Patrick, we'll have more episodes this week. We'll see if we have any news on Horton. Like we said, I probably not come until later in the week or after the week wraps up. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care.